Hello there from Leiden. I am Richard Griffiths and I was instructor in the course Configuring the World. And on the other side of the Atlantic, we have Leah, who will introduce herself from Boston. Leah, over to you.
Yeah, hello. So welcome also from University of Geneva, here currently in Boston, to our fourth Google Hangout. And so as you have seen, the deadline for submitting your essay is next Monday at 1 p.m. Central European Time. So we thought we'd give you some recommendations today for how to finalize your essay and how to make sure that it's actually consistent, coherent, and so that you nicely develop the thread, as well as some technical suggestions. So may I start maybe with the first point? There was a question in the forum asking how can we upload figures and tables on the Coursera platform? And our answer first is yes, please use figures and tables, because that can really facilitate your for the reader to grasp your line of argumentation. But we recommend that you actually write your essay in a Word document and there paste actually the figures and tables that you would like to use, and then convert it into a PDF. And then it's easier to upload the full PDF on the Coursera platform rather than pasting just the text and upload the figures separately, because then it's very difficult to control, for instance, the size and how will it look like. However, if you prefer not to use a Word document and the full PDF, make sure that you click on the preview on the Coursera platform so that you can see how will my figures look like. So that's more of a technical issue. And then maybe another 2 points on how you use figures. First one is they have to be integrated in the text. So make sure that in the text you relate to them and explain actually what they describe and what the key point is that these figures make. And then also number the figures and tables and give them a title. And last point, with regard to the figures and tables, please also provide a reference. So if it's not you who has crafted actually these figures, you've copied them from a book or an article, please provide the reference here. So that was my point with regard to figures and tables. And with that, I hand over to Richard.
Yeah, I think what Leah's been saying about figures and tables is very good. A lot of students, when they're a bit nervous, tend to put a table up and have a sort of exercise, do it yourself, here are the numbers. It's important that you draw the conclusions for them and tell them why they should be looking at the material. That reinforces your argument. And many students ask me at this stage of an essay, what can I do now? I've got more or less my essay there. Where can I really invest my time? They often expect me to say, well, read more, look up more things, put more in, but that's not really what you should be doing. The first thing you should do now is to make sure that you don't make silly mistakes. Try and get your footnotes consistent, so they look at the same stylistically. It doesn't matter particularly which style you use, but try to get them consistent through the text. Make sure that if you have a bibliography, that it is in an alphabetical order of authors. I mean, it's so easy to do. It's so annoying if people don't do it. And then, if you still have time left, the best investment of your time is in the introduction and the conclusion. Make sure that what you want to conclude at the end appears as some sort of question form hypothesis at the beginning, so that the two ends of your essays tie together. And then try within the essay to reinforce these points that you're trying to make. In a short essay of this length, 3,000 odd words, I think you're looking at not more than 3 or 4 main points that you drive through. So try and get some consistency there and pack it in. Another thing is, if you've been stuffing stuff into footnotes just in case you might use it or not, just keep the footnotes clean as references and no more. If you have material that you leave there, it doesn't really matter or count much if you leave it in the footnotes. If it's important, put it in your argument. If it isn't important, leave it out. So that would be my advice on what to do now for tidying your points, and really try and drive home the message. You've been spending 3 or 4 weeks doing this work. you should get the credit for saying it, but you won't get the credit for saying it if you don't say it yourself. This is not the time to say, well, oh, perhaps this, perhaps that. If you want to make an argument, push it through and get it through your essay as a whole. Um, yeah. Now, that leaves me with one more point I'd like to make, and that's the OECD challenge for those of you who are doing it. Um, Within Configuring the World, we're getting closer and closer and working together with the OECD, and they're very keen on getting some new ideas into their discussions on why don't international organizations, why don't people seem to solve basic problems? Now then, this kind of essay requires you to direct some sort of argument. It's not required to say, well, yeah, it's a total mess. I can't see how they're going to do it. If you have suggestions, reinforce them at the end and also at the beginning. So that would be my advice for where to concentrate on now, if you've already got your essay more or less in draft form. Leah, over to you for any final suggestions, I suppose.
I can only underscore the points that you have raised because it's really important that the text is coherent and always think about who is the reader. So it's actually your peers who are going to read your essay. So you have to try to make sure that they immediately get your line of argumentation. So what is your research question? What is this essay about? And then what is your core hypothesis or what is your core argument? So really make sure that everything is transparent and it actually is logic in how it unfolds. Here are maybe 2 points with regard to the final check. So when you go through and check for spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, don't over rely on Microsoft automatic spelling checks because they are not complete. So you might have forgotten a word or something like that, and they sometimes do not recognize. At this stage, sometimes you're quite tired because you have worked on the document a couple of hours. So what I do when I'm tired and I have to do the final check, I read the text actually aloud because that helps me to concentrate and really focus on what is written. So maybe you can try that as well. So Richard already mentioned that we do not really prefer one reference style. So you can use a Harvard or APA. The only condition or request that we have is that you're consistent and stick to the reference system that you actually have introduced or that you're using at the beginning and stick to that until the end. Maybe another point that was asked in the forum, is there a passing rate? So for this question, you may look at the syllabus and there it's actually clarified that you have to have 60% of the total scores in order to pass this course and get also the certificate. So I think these are my points. Richard, do you have something to add to this?
Yeah, I do. A couple of just very small points. The first one was somebody said they might not be able to finish the project this round. Would there be another opportunity for doing it again? At the moment, we don't know. Coursera are going to move to a different platform, a different setup, and we haven't quite finished our own planning as to exactly what is going to happen. So my recommendation would be, I know it's hard, but if you're going to got the room and you're able to do it, I'd try and hit it this time. We can't promise when or where the next opportunity will occur. So we're here to help you. So push ahead if you can. If you can't manage, yeah, I'm sorry, we would do our best, but I can't make any promises at the moment. And this accent on passes, it's good to know that you're going to get a certificate, but we also want to look at the better essays. And of course, like last time, we'll be having an ebook of the best essays, the best 10 or 15 essays, an ebook form that you can share the knowledge among yourselves. And that's another sort of production then from the course. Last year had very many interesting essays. I'm sure the same will happen again this year. And I look forward, as does Leah and Madeline, I think, to reading them in due course. So from me and Leiden, it's to wish you all the best in this final stage. And till next time. Leah, over to you to say goodbye.
So I think good point that you mentioned again the ebook that we will actually develop. I think this is also a way of creating a community. Some posts in the forum also ask for, okay, let's create a conversation, let's create a community to discuss actually these interesting topics all around global challenges. And it's always a pleasure to read your essays. And so we wanted to share this experience with the ebook. So then you can also check and explore what the others actually have written. A last point that I want to mention is that, okay, in your essay, you also build on the 3 moods, right? And it is important that you also relate to these moods. So if there is a content, a main line of argumentation that you, or an insight that you take from one of the moods, so I think at least 3, please make that explicit. So you make a footnote or in the text, then you say based on, and then you mention actually the MOOC and ideally also the number of the video where it was mentioned. So that is important to make that explicit. So that's it also from my side. I wish you good luck for finalizing your essay, and I hope that it's really an enriching experience and also a fun experience. So good luck for that, and yeah, all the best. Goodbye.
Yep. Goodbye from me as well, and till next week. Good luck with the essays.